I was talking to him the other day at the Bunbury Cup. He used to come down and hunt here. There was a WA Hunt Club, yes, yeah. Very strong. And when the war was over, we organised a hunt down there in 1950. Old Frank Bowen used to come. Ozzie Cranston, he was a mad car driver. Gerald Doog.
Geraldine?
Her dad, yeah, Geraldine Doog's dad, used to come down to Bunbury and hunt. And they used to hunt in Perth.
I relieved this poultryman for a fortnight and then went off ostensibly to go to Geraldton to relieve that harbour master there for his leave. But I had 3 days at home in the meantime. During the 3 days I was called back to Bunbury because Captain Poultryman had fallen down the hold of the Chewett, a little tug that we had in the port, and broken his thigh. So I never went to Geraldton to pilot. I came to Bunbury to relieve him. He went to hospital, and that took a long time. I was still in Bunbury, of course, working. And then he was diagnosed with cancer and never came back to Bunbury. And I was told by my bosses to be the harbour master pilot in the port of Bunbury. That took a year to accomplish, and during that year I lived in a pub.
My name's Wang, and my wife Dai. We both from China, and we settled down in Bunbury only 1 year.
And you were transferred here with your company?
With a Bechtel, I'm working on the Worsley aluminium expansion project.
As an administrator?
Yes.
Commercial, actually. His work relates to commercial. Not really administrator. Contracts. Engineer, actually, right?
Yeah.
You're an engineer.
I'm a housewife.
Struggling to find a job.
Not so easy to find a similar job I did before for almost 8 years. Yes.
Good. Yes. I'm so glad you like Australia.
Thank you.
My name is Jill Clark. I was born Jill Johnston, eldest daughter of Eric and Cresh Johnston, born at Leschnault on the 23rd of April 1932. I was actually born in the homestead at Leschnault. I lived there until I was married. Well, on and off after doing a bit of nursing and tripping and things like that. But I have the happiest of memories of life at Leschnault, with horses and carts and floods and living with nature and having many friends and family and relations. And life was just beautiful for me. My sister is a very good horse rider, and of course we all rode horses, and we had property at Boynup and we used to ride out to Boynup. We did visit Alverstoke, and I can remember Algie, I think it was, who used to live, Algie Clifton, who was an uncle, and we visited him.
Spent a lot of time there. We used to play marbles and that on the veranda on the side there, because we could race our marbles down the wooden slope of the the veranda all the way around the house, and we used to go down in the swamp in the winter and pick up the coal. As the old steam engines would chug around the corner heading up the road there, and it would fall off the side of the tenders, and we'd pick it up and bring it back in, and we could bring it almost up to the back of the lawn here.
I know you can recall a visit down to the harbour when the Sydney was in, so can you tell us how that all came about?
Well, how it originated, I suppose, it was through the RSL to give us, well, we're all around the 12, 13 mark at that time, and to have a warship into the harbour of Bunbury, that was something out of this world. And of course we'd heard about the exploits of the Sydney in the Mediterranean and that sort of thing from our parents, and what a great ship it was, etc. So that was a big deal to go down and see one in our own harbour in Bunbury.
Do you remember the actual school party going down that day?
Oh yes, we can remember. I can remember going down. It was a fine day, but what month it was, I'm not sure on that. I've asked the other chaps that were in, who are still here in Bunbury, were in the class as we walked down to the wharf, and they can't seem to reconcile what month it was. Also there was a Bunbury boy on it. Later on I got to know his father. His name was Greenmount, but his father's original name was Gronberg, and he jumped ship at Bunbury from Sweden, and he changed his name to Greenmount. But when his son joined the Navy, he went back to Gronberg, and he was the only Bunbury boy on the HMAS Sydney.
I lived in Clark Street, and Clark Street from Spencer Street in to the railway line used to go from Bunbury through to the racecourse, and they used to shunt off a whole lot of carriages for the people going to the races. And what is it, Hands Oval now, and it was normally the showground. That they used to have a showground every year where they had boxing tents and all these sort of things, joy rides. But the railway bank from top of Halsey Street through to Clark Street was a high bank, up higher than a 6-foot fence, and you could sit on the top of that and watch the football. Kerry Park didn't exist. There was no such thing as Kerry Park. The fellas from families called Ganfields and Delaportes and all them, they used to drive this is when I was a kid, of course, drive the night carts, what we used to call 40 cylinders and flies sort of thing. And I used to live with my grandmother in 177 Spencer Street, which overlooked Big Swamp from where we could see Big Swamp from there. And Big Swamp in those days was Big Swamp. It used to reach from Minute Road to Jarvis Street on the other side.
I went to school at St Joseph's. I lived down the end of Victoria Street, well, the north end of Victoria Street, the harbour end, which is not like it was in now. I lived in a house at 13 Victoria Street. It's next to the what was the Lumpers Union office in those days, which is now a security firm's office, I think. And the only other building that's there, from memory, is the Hog's Breath Cafe or restaurant, which was in those days belonged to the Meyer family. It was originally built as a butcher shop, but I never knew it as a butcher shop because the butchering business had closed by the time I came along, and it was a street dominated by the Gorman family actually. There was a Mr. Gorman lived right down the end, and there was 3 houses across the road. One of his daughters was a Mrs. Bysett, and another one was a Mrs. Wynne. And Mrs. Hislop moved into the other house, and they were all daughters of Gormans, I believe. Gordon's Hotel. The Gordon's Hotel. And has anybody told you there was another pub there in those days?
The
too?
PM.
The PM. People won't believe this now. They reckon there wasn't room for another pub there, but of course it was only a little pub. Morning pickups were held out in the street, actually in Victoria Street. All the lumpers used to assemble there when there was a ship in, although I suppose it was about 7:30 in the morning they used to turn up.
Whereabouts in the street?
Right in the street, outside.
Outside of what building?
Outside the Lumpers Union, which is this main Nicholas building. And the pickup was held there, and I don't know what system they used, but a chap by the name of Guppy, they named Guppy Park after him anyhow. He was the union secretary, and he used to bring a bit of a stand out and stand up on that and read out a list of those fellows who had been allocated work for the day, and that was it. They would go down to the wharf, the rest of them would go home. Nice. That was it.